women in front of the women, then torture the women, maybe keep them as toys from which the vampires could feed and extract screams for a few days until the vamps lost interest and sought new victims. That plan changed when the men parted company from the women after a brief bout of sloppy kisses and ass-grabbing. The men staggered off down one sidewalk, the women tottered up another, their high heels clickety-clacking on the pavement. The vampires hesitated, then followed the women. Bastian looked at Richard. "Do you want Beavis or Butthead?" Richard nodded to the blonde vampire. "I'll take Beavis." The women passed in and out of pools of illumination as they walked beneath campus lights, then under the branches of ancient oak trees. They turned toward the brightly lit entrance of one of the dorms. The vampires drew closer to their backs. Richard touched Bastian's shoulder. The world around him went dark. A feeling of weightlessness engulfed him, not unlike that one sometimes experienced in an elevator. Then Bastian found himself standing a foot or so behind the vampires. He frowned at Richard. Bastian may not have the aversion to teleporting that some immortals did, but he still liked to have a little warning first. Two figures, moving so swiftly they blurred, suddenly darted around the corner of the building, swept up the women, and sped away. "What the hell?" The brunette Bastian had labeled Butthead spouted. "Hey, those chicks are ours," Beavis shouted. Bastian met Richard's glowing amber gaze. "I'll take the newbies." Beavis and Butthead spun around. Richard nodded. "I'll get rid of these two." The vampire's eyes began to glow as they bared descending fangs. Bastian took off after the new vamps and their female victims, running so swiftly that humans would not even be able to follow the movement with their eyes. The vampires took him from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, to neighboring Durham, dodging this direction then that, providing quite a chase. Did they know an immortal hunted them, or did they simply want to avoid a confrontation with the enraged vampires from whom they had snatched the women? The vamps stopped in the deserted loading zone behind one of Duke University's buildings. Each clutched a woman. Neither human made a sound. As Bastian halted a hair's breadth away, he saw bite marks on both women's necks. Their hearts still beat, so neither had been drained. But the glands that had formed above the fangs the vampires had grown during their transformation had already delivered the chemical that acted like GHB, leaving the females sluggish and willing to accede to anything the vamps wanted to do to them. Tomorrow morning, if the women lived, they would have no memory of this. The vampire closest to Bastian started violently when he realized they had company. He dropped the woman he held. "We saw him first." Bastian caught the woman's blouse in a fist before she could hit the ground, then plunged his other fist into the vampire's face. Blood spurted and bones shattered as the vampire flew backward and hit the building with enough force to crack the brick and produce a cloud of sandy mortar. Bastian gently lowered the woman to the ground and zipped over to the vampire's gaping friend. That one tried to lock an arm around his victim and use her as a shield, until Bastian broke said arm and sent the screaming vamp flying through the air to form more cracks in the building's exterior. Bastian placed the woman beside her friend and charged the vampires, guiding the battle away from the humans. Both vampires drew weapons, hunting knives with serrated edges and buoys as long as his forearm. Bastian drew his katanas and faced them without a qualm. He had been born 2 centuries ago and, at the insistence of his noble British father, had trained with a master swordsman. If that weren't enough to lend him confidence, the fact that he had trained with Seth and David, the eldest and most powerful immortals in existence for roughly 2 years, did. The blonde vampire swore, fear filling his glowing blue eyes. "He's an immortal guardian." Bastian thought for a moment the other one would cut and run. Then the brunette roared and dove into the fight. Blades clashed, wounds opened, blood flowed. On the vampires, that is. Bastian remained relatively unscathed. Disarming the blonde, he sheathed a sword and grabbed the...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.